1654, a Scottish pastor and theologian, Samuel Rutherford, wrote a book called Lex Rex, which literally means law is king. At the time, kings across Europe ruled by the philosophy Rex Lex, which is the king is law, which was essentially what I say happens, kind of like the Roman Empire. I'm completely in charge. And he flipped it, the phrase, upside down to Lex Rex. No, the law is king. How does that relate to how the U.S. has been set up? How does that relate to your view of the Christian faith?
Yeah. So what's interesting is, C.S. Lewis actually has this phrase that he likes to call chronological snobbery.
Yes.
Right. So C.S. Lewis has this theory that people look back 200, 300, 500, 1,000 years and they read something and they say, we're much smarter. We have so much more wisdom than they do. How could they possibly know and advise us on what we should be doing today? That quote is really interesting given the context of its time. So 4 years before that, Charles I was the king of England and actually went to war with Parliament at the time. And there was the English Civil War. Charles I, his military lost, and he was tried for treason and ultimately executed. And most people don't know that, but people at the beginning of our country did, the United States. And so in 1650, Charles I is executed. 100 years later, in 1750, in Boston, there was a minister named Jonathan Mayhew. So you have a minister who was looking back 100 years and wanted to ask the question, was that trial of treason against Charles I and the ultimate execution, was that considered valid under Romans 13?
Whoa.
So this is all a question of, okay, so what's government for? What is God created government for? And then are there rulers that are going outside of that? So you can still submit to the authority without obeying it, to your point.
Yes.
And so the interesting thing
because submission is about my posture.
Right.
I'm realizing I'm not the ultimate. I'm not king either.
Right.
But I'm going to disobey when I'm asked to disobey God.
Exactly. And so you end up with this question of, okay, so first off, there's disobey, right? And then what do you do about it? So do you have an affirmative requirement to actually do something about it in the moment? And that's an interesting one that Mayhew also took on. So it's like that two-parter. Like, okay, so I'm looking at Romans 13, and the question that I have to ask myself first is, what kind of government am I supposed to disobey?
Yeah.
And then what am I supposed to do about it once I start disobeying? We're in the same moment, and you're giving a very similar sermon to Jonathan Mayhew in 1750. Why? Because the Bible doesn't change.
That's right. Come on. That's legit.
Exactly.
That's legit right there.